Coming up on today's show.
You can't sleep until 10 o'clock when you have children. They have to go to school and they need breakfast and they demand of you. And if you can sleep past, 6 a.m., you're lucky.
They only sleep for 2 hours a night. And
There's like a whole underground world that operates in the middle of the night that we're not aware of.
Right.
The one thing about time management that I think people ignore or undervalue is that we only have so much time in a day.
The Power of When, Part 2, today on Keeping You Organized. Hello and welcome to Keeping You Organized. Today we're going to pick up on a discussion we started last time with professional organizer Chris Scott from Organizing Maniacs. We started discussing this idea of the power of when within a context of 4 personality types and how they deal differently and can get organized differently. And we're going to bring on Chris Scott, one of our professional organizer friends from the National Association of Productivity Consultants and Professional Organizers, NAPO, what we call it. We talked about the 4 types, chronotypes you called them. Maybe, let's say someone's coming in to talk to you and you want to help them get more productive. You have an understanding of who they are by their type, but how would you kind of coach or counsel someone in these different scenarios? So what was number 1 was the lion, right? What do you say to a lion to become more productive?
So before I answer that question, I like to answer the other question that you said, that you asked, whether people actually change their chronotypes.
Okay, that's good.
And
yes.
The correct answer is yes. Like we all probably start in like the wolf stage where, we have a lot of energy. It's like, we're productive in spurts. We are, we wake up early-ish and we go to sleep late and we may or may not need a lot of sleep. And then as we go through life, depending on, whether we have a brain-based challenge or whether our families have needs and we have to accommodate, you can't sleep until 10 o'clock when you have children. They have to go to school and they need breakfast and they demand of you. And if you can sleep past, 6 a.m., you're lucky. So your body clock adapts to it a little bit, not 100%, but there are ways that you can adapt. So the answer is yes. Your internal body clock is going to be asking for something, but you may tweak it as you go along. And some of it will just naturally change just because it happens with hormones and just natural aging.
I have to laugh because my 16-year-old slept until noon a couple days ago. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. But, and you can't wake her up at all. In fact, you go in there, you wake her up, you say something to her, and she goes back to sleep. And then later on, you said, "Did you hear that?" "No, I didn't. You told me that." So
I know I can't remember the last time. I used to sleep pretty late when I was a teenager too. But I can't. I now wake up naturally at like 5:30ish in the morning. Yep. And so I feel like I'm getting into that stage where at some point I'm just going to be like my parents where they wake up at 4 a.m. and they're ready to go.
Yeah. They only sleep for 2 hours a night. And
there's like a whole underground world that operates in the middle of the night that we're not aware of.
Right. Okay. Well, let's go on to the lion then. So if you're working with a lion, do you either try to coach them to be another type, or do you work within their existing type and say, here are some tips to be more productive?
I definitely try to, lions are probably one of they're the stereotypical, chronotype that everybody thinks they should have. So lions tend to be the easiest people to work with just because naturally they wake up early. They already have all of those tendencies that you would read in all of the, stereotypical productivity articles. So those are not the people that have a hard time with their time management. I see, they do tend to be like people that get a lot of stuff done already. So I don't hear from a whole lot of lions asking for time management help.
Right. Yeah, they've already got the characteristics kind of built in. They just have to, follow the steps. And they're probably implementers too, so that helps.
They are, yes. They tend to be high achievers. They tend to be people that get a lot of stuff done. They already have the chronotype, so they're waking up early and they're hitting the ground running right away. And then they're getting, they tend to be most productive. However, sometimes you do meet people that are completely overwhelmed. And I'm sure you hear this a lot from like all of my organizing colleagues. It's like the one thing about time management that I think people ignore or undervalue is that we only have so much time in a day. So you can be as productive as you would like to be, but you only have 24 hours and you have to sleep, and there are all kinds of things that you have to do with that time. So you can't create time. Like at some point you just have to eliminate things, right? And I think we're pretty good as organizers helping people through that process too, just understanding that there are limitations to what you can and cannot do in one day.
Right. All right. Well, let's move on to the next type. It was the second one was the bear, or
the second one was the dolphin.
The dolphin. Yeah, I'm thinking about the dolphins. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we help them?
So dolphins tend to be night owls, and dolphins are, it's like whenever I work with somebody and they're a dolphin, especially if they have a regular a typical job, like, I don't know if there is such a thing as a typical job anymore, but I like to think that there is like a section of, the employed people that may feel like they have to work from 9 to 5.
Yep.
I always ask them, like, is that really true? Is that a real assessment of your job situation? Or do they offer flexibility and you can maybe, structure your schedule in a way that may feel better for you? I think a lot of times we also have to work around our families, right? So it may not be feasible that you get to work at 11 and you work until 7. So how can you fit your life and your work and all of the things that you already have into the chronotype, and how can you make that work? Right. So they are most alert at night, late night. So I also tell people, like, can you go late to work and then do some of your errand things in the morning and get some of your kids' things done in the morning? Yeah. And then, do some of that work afterwards when they go to sleep.
Yeah. A lot of those companies out there that do the, tech companies kind of are flexible on their schedules, and, people can come in late and they can, so I guess it depends on the company and the industry they're working in. And, I think about like nursing and stuff like that. You can work around the clock if that works for you.
Yeah. And I think as we, we have really evolved in how our workplaces are nowadays. And as we become more of a mobile society, I think, I run my business from my phone all the time. Sometimes I spend days without going into my office, just because everything I need is in my hand, and so do everybody else. So I think as we start seeing more of that become more acceptable, which I think millennials have already, they have demanded that for themselves. And I was just at the NAPO conference, there was an amazing panel, and one of the people there talked about that we 40-some people are demanding to be like them, right? We want to, we want flexibility in our schedules. We want to be able to spend time with our families. We want to be able to go, to events and recitals and things like that. We don't want to be tied to our desks anymore, just for the sake of being tied to our desks. We want to do our work. We want to do it really well, but we want to do it a little bit on our time.
Well, let me rabbit trail on that, because I'm wondering if they shared this. Is it because maybe the millennial doesn't want to have as much stuff, maybe the minimalist movement, all that kind of thing together? So, because I know a lot of millennials, they don't even want to own a car. They don't want to be encumbered with anything. They want to just be able to live out of a, backpack, or, minimal stuff, and the ability and flexibility to move around. Is that true, do you think?
Well, I think the one thing that I really admire about them is that they're really demanding to enjoy life. Yeah. And if you really think about like our parents' generation, and even, like as the 40-some, right? We are not enjoying life. We're just workaholics. We're spending all of our time at the office. We're not spending time with our children and our families. And, life is kind of short. And the one thing that they're demanding is to have less, to work less, and to just be flexible. They're still delivering. I mean, there are a couple of millennials on my team. They're amazing. They deliver great work, but they're like, sometimes on a Friday, they're like, we're going to go hiking, and that's what we want to do. Or sometimes, they want to take lots of vacation and just go spend time with their loved ones when they are traveling. So they are demanding more flexibility. And I think the rest of us are going to be, we're like, I want to be like them too. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that happen than we have ever before.
Well, that's great, Chris. Let's take a quick break now, and when we come back, we'll cover number 3 and number 4. So you are watching or listening to Keeping You Organized, The Power of When with professional organizer Chris Scrott, and we'll be right back. We're back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about the power of when with professional organizer Chris Scrott from Organizing Maniacs. All right, let's move to the third one, which was the bear, correct?
The third one is the bear, yeah.
And so how do you work with them?
So bear is like, there's a large percentage of the population that's a bear, and it's once again, is a little bit like, as people evolve through the chronotypes, one of them will always be a little bit more dominant. Mm-hmm. And bear tends to be the majority dominance. And so this is the majority of us. These are the people that created the 9-to-5 work schedule, right? Because they're like, well, you snooze a little bit, but you can be at work at 9, and you can be, you're like most productive in late morning. So, you may have some emails, you get a lot of your work done, then you have your meetings, and then you go home. So they are really the people driving the schedules out in the world. And clearly it's beneficial to them, but it's not beneficial to, let's say, the wolves and the dolphins of the world, or maybe even the lions, right? Because we have a different schedule than they do. So in the workplace, it's very important to consider some of the personalities of the people that you've been meeting with. And I do a lot of small business consulting, where I try to help figure that out, how they can best structure their meetings and their, and their non-meeting times, which is like very, very important for a lot of businesses to have, where it's like there is what I call quiet hours, mm-hmm. Where people can actually get their work done. But how do you make that work in a way that is across an entire business? Sometimes it can be complicated.
Yeah. So do you think those people need more structure in their plan, or a little less?
I don't know that they need more structure. I mean, I think we all need structure, right? Because left to our own device, I'm a super productive person, but some days I wake up and I'm like, oh, what am I doing today? And if I don't really take the time to say like, okay, like this morning, I had an appointment, then I had to meet with you. And then, I have like plans this afternoon, and then I'm going to go for a bike ride, and then I have dinner plans. But if I don't take the time to actually structure my day, I don't get any work done. I could just be, dilly-dallying and hanging out and having coffee all the time. Right. And when I worked in corporate, when you don't have a plan, also your coworkers can like totally take over your time, because they're like, well, you don't really look like you're doing anything important, so I'll go and chit chat with you, right? So before you know it, half of your day is gone. I find that anyone that doesn't really take the time to schedule their day and really plan ends up wasting it away. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on to wrap it up here with the fox, or is it the wolf? The wolf, right?
Wolf,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. The fox, the wolf, the one's smaller and bigger.
Yeah. Fox, same thing. Okay. Yeah. So wolves tend to be most productive late at night. So these are like your really typical night owls. And they also tend to feel most guilt, right? Because they're like, well, why am I not like those people that get up early and get things done? So sometimes that feeling of like, I'm not like everybody else and I don't get anything done makes them less productive, because they're not embracing that as like, I'm not going to try to get work done at 7 a.m. That's not going to happen for me. And that's totally okay, because that is not my chronotype. I'm just going to save my productive work to be done at the end of the day. And once again, it's just a little bit of self-acceptance of who you are and how how your brain type works and how your body works. And the moment we accept who we are, I think the most productive we become.
Yes. Oh, that's great. So that one's a little bit of a self-actualization going on in really that one.
Good. Yeah.
Well, listen, we're kind of out of time here. Before we go, I want to give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about your business and how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so I own Organizing Maniacs in outside Washington, D.C., and we specialize in working with clients with brain-based challenges. So the majority of our clients have ADD and ADHD, and we do help people hands-on if they're in the area, but we do a lot of consulting and coaching to people all across the country, just helping them understand their chronotype and manage their time better, and with accountability, because I feel like we can talk about all kinds of strategies and I can give you an amazing plan and an amazing planner. But if you don't have anybody to be accountable for, you may not follow the plan. So we help people that way.
Great. Well, in the show notes, we're going to link to your website. We're also going to link to that that assessment so people can find out what chronotype they are. And then hopefully our takeaway is going to be a little more productive because we understand who we are a little bit better. Don't you think?
Yes. And they can take the quiz at the powerofwhenquiz.com.
Okay.
And I totally agree. I think when we understand ourselves and we give ourselves permission to be who we are, we become more organized and we therefore become more productive.
All right. Well, great, Chris. Thank you so much for being with us this time. Well, I'm sure we'll have you back again. And folks, there you have it. Just figure out who you are and embrace that and work more productively around who you are, and find out more at our show notes, smead.com/podcast, and thepowerofwhenquiz.com. You can take the quiz as well. And then we'll see you next time promptly here on Keeping You Organized.